At the moment, we're in the process of reforming one of the old lineups with Dio. Geezer, Dio, Cozy, Powell and myself, which we've been rehearsing, and it's been really good up to now.
And not something that people expected from Dio, not to be magical and mystical and full of dragons and whatnot, because that was another time in my life, and it was a time in the world's life. At that time, it was okay to talk about dreams, because dreams could come true. Unfortunately, today, it's really, really difficult for a dream to come true. So I thought I'd talk about things that are a lot more close to the earth, and that is how angry I am about what's going on around us, and I think it needed to be said.
I had a horse promptly fall on top of me, breaking my pelvis, and that was me out of the band.
It's shaped up to be like one of those albums you can't really pick one track. They're all like equally, they've all got their equal points about them.
When you get the album, play it loud.
They were having some issues with Ronnie, and I don't really know what it was. And Tony Iommi called me and said, "This isn't working, can you come back?" And I said, "No, I can't. I'm doing my own solo thing by now."
This all began in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was doing a show there with my own band, with a band called Dio, and Geezer came to the show.
I hadn't spoken to Geezer since we broke up, which was what, 83? Was it 82?
82. Mm-hmm.
His manager, who was his wife, called my manager, who was my wife.
Yeah.
And said, "We would like to get back together to see you again. You know, we missed your friendship," because we were very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
Geezer and his wife and my wife were really, really close. And she called and said, "Geezer would love to see Ronnie again. I'd like to see you, Wendy, etc. Would Ronnie mind?" I said, "No, it'd be wonderful. I'd love to see Geezer." He never held any grudges against him ever.
And I told him he couldn't come to the show unless he brought his bass, because he had to play. So he said, okay. So he brought his bass, which got lost on the airplane, of course. So he had to borrow another one, but he did play. And just from that beginning, I mean, it was wonderful. It was like we'd played together forever when we hadn't really played in 10 years or 11 years. And then, of course, the most important part came. We went back to the dressing room and hoisted a few. And that ended up being, "Hey, let's get back together again. This is great." You know, the way those things go.
And Geese said, I've been talking to Tony, and Tony might, would probably really interested in maybe trying something else again together. The Dio band that was playing at that time was not the one that pleased me the most at that time anyway. So when this came about and I was able to, have an opportunity to play with great people again, and people that I respected and knew I could write with and do something special with, it was a no-brainer for me. Great, let's do it.
No, it's just me and Ronnie met up in America and got up and jammed with him and just had a few beers together and talked about things, and it just seemed we had a really good time. And just talked about all the stuff that split us up before and got that out of the way.
And what was that? I mean, what caused the initial split?
It mainly came from too much touring on the Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. We just didn't have any, because it was so successful, we just didn't have any time out to a break or anything. And sort of all got in each other's way and didn't really talk to each other on the tour, and we just kept getting further and further apart. Or, Ronnie and myself and Tony. Particularly Ronnie was like getting further apart from us. And it came to a head when we'd finished the touring. We went in to do the live album, and we just couldn't work together anymore.
Now, I heard some nasty stories there around the time of the live album, with the two of you being in the studio mixing at night or day, and Ronnie coming in and raising his vocals, and you coming back and raising the bass or whatever.
Well, this is one of the things I talked to Ronnie about when I first saw him, and it was like news to him. He says, where the hell did all this come from? And it was the engineer at the time that we had. This guy was like total alka. It's just like, when we'd leave the studio, he'd get like a few more bottles of Jack Daniels down him. and it was obviously him messing about with the controls.
So we broke up, and that's the reason. Now, since then, before we got back together again, my first thing I said to Geezer was, I want to know about what happened with this turning up the drums and the vocal crap, because it's shit. And he said, well, it wasn't he said it was Mr. X, the producer. He told us that that's what you did. And I said, well, you know differently now, don't you? Yes, we do, we know differently. So that took that away. And that was the reason the band broke up. Just because of that one person, Mr. X, saying that, and they believed him. But it was a time when the band had a lot of success. Black Sabbath was a huge band still at that time. And I think our egos got, you know, their egos listened to what Mr. X said. And we couldn't understand why. So we said, fine, we'll break up. And that's why. But not now. Now that we've talked about it, everyone understands that was wrong. That was the reason we broke up, and it was the wrong reason. So from then on, it's not been a problem.
Weren't you content with the last lineup?
Yeah, well, the last lineup was good for what we'd done as that band, you know. But when the opportunity came of putting this band back together again, there's no comparison, you know. I mean, it was great because I wanted to work with Geese again. Anyway, whatever we'd done, doesn't matter whatever name we were under or whatever. I just wanted to, you know, to continue playing with Geese because we've always been best of friends and great working together.
So, what were the problems you were facing upon recreating an old lineup again?
The problems mainly was just to see if everyone was in the right mood to put it together as a band instead of like. I think Ronnie desperately needed before to go out and get his own band together. And he'd done that and got that out of his system, and it was just time we all felt like we wanted to be back as a band again.
This decision pretty much forced you to fire Tony Martin and Kelsey Powell. How did they take this?
They fired me, which, by the way, was a complete surprise. I had no idea. I didn't see that coming at all. In fact, I was walking out of the door to go to rehearsals for the next album, and the phone rang just as I was leaving the door, and my manager was on. He said, "You better sit down, kid." I went, "Go on, what?" And he said, "They don't want your services anymore." So, I went, what? You're kidding me? I just didn't see that coming at all. So, wow, okay. And I was just so shocked by that. I didn't know what to say.
Returning once again to Tony Martin, who just had to be taken away because otherwise Ronnie couldn't enter the band, really. Another nasty rumor I heard, I keep on returning to nasty rumors here, but it's good to clarify things, is that you started this project really behind Tony's back.
No, Tony was aware of it. We told Tony, and Tony was aware what was going on. Maybe not, originally he wasn't. But he was aware fairly shortly after we decided we were going to get this together.
See, in my mind, this is a guy that really gave his all for Black Sabbath. I mean,
yeah, he did. And you know, there's no knocking him. He's a great vocalist. But I think Tony will agree that, you know, he felt a little shady by being in Black Sabbath because he, you know, if it was under any other name, I think he would have felt a little bit different. But the demand on him was so great to, you know, to get more involved with the audience and get more things going, that it was a little difficult for him because he wasn't a runner and he wasn't an Aussie.
And he lacked a bit of charisma.
He did, yeah, he did. And I mean, he did say that himself. I mean, I did talk to him at my house, and he said that himself. He said, well, you know, I understand. He was absolutely great. And we still get on with him and talk to him. So but he's doing his own thing.
At the end, it was an amicable split.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's very good.
Originally, when we first started this lineup, Cozy was involved in it, and we started like rehearsals in England.
went to the States to do some rehearsals, and it didn't particularly gel the first couple of months. The chemistry wasn't quite right, for whatever reason.
Again, the communication problem came up again. We didn't really communicate. So when any problems did come up, it was a matter of people hiding behind doors and hearing it from other people. This is wrong. That's a problem. Well, was anybody going to tell us all about this? Are we going to talk about it as people? No, we never did.
And then Cozy had a car crash, which put him out of action for 3 weeks or so.
I came back to England and went down to a horse show just near where I live, and I had a horse promptly fall on top of me, breaking my pelvis, and that was me out of the band.
But on saying that, it was a situation where Cozy wasn't getting on with Ronnie anyway. Those two are terrible, didn't get on at all.
Sounded good, that. Did you record that, Coach? I certainly did. I still think you could. I don't think you know where that E is.
No, because I seem to recall a memory of someone telling me that it was actually Ronnie's and Wendy's demand, really, to get rid of Cozy and replace him with Vinny.
No. I think at first, we could see that it wasn't going to work as that lineup. It just wasn't. And it either meant us not doing anything and all just splitting and going elsewhere, or giving it a try. And when the opportunity of having Vinny came up, it was the ideal set.
It was the one drummer that we all agreed on.
Yeah.
It was the obvious choice, and the question was what was he doing at the time, and we called him up, and he was unhappy with the band that he was in, and he jumped at it. He was on the plane the next day.
So Bill Ward was never a choice?
And that's when we got Vinny back to do it, and once Vinny was back, Ronnie felt comfortable, so then he started being able to write, come up with ideas then. But it was still pulling teeth doing that album.
Something of an obvious conclusion to an outsider looking in is that Dio's career was in rapid decline and has been for a few years, and also Sabbath was struggling after a while, and that is the reason that you reformed something that used to be very commercial.
No, that's not the reason. The reason was that we got a lot of. I was settled as far as doing that thing, whatever it would have taken, and but we still wanted to get something together. Whatever, if we hadn't been a Sabbath or whatever, Goose and myself were planning on doing something together. So it's not a case of because it's obviously grass is greener on the other side. It's not that one. It was a good opportunity to get together because we've still got a lot to offer.
Dehumanizer would be the beginning of what fans now call Ronnie's dystopian period, a lyrical concept that started brewing on the Lock Up the Wolves album.
I have to write, lyrically everything, and I just didn't want to write about the same things. I'm always accused of being Mr. Wizard, Mr. Witch and Mr. Sword and Sorcery kind of guy. And I think with the time off we took, I started to write a little bit more like as if this album were kind of my psychiatrist's couch. It was a chance for me to get all these things pent up inside of myself off for 3 years, and none of them were concerned with wizards and witches. What I wanted to do, which was to be more contemporary, to be the Dio of the 90s and not something that people expected from Dio, not to be magical and mystical and full of dragons and whatnot, because that was another time in my life, and it was a time in the world's life. At that time, it was okay to talk about dreams because dreams could come true. Unfortunately, today, it's really, really difficult for a dream to come true. So I thought I'd talk about things that are a lot more close to the earth, and that is how angry I am about what's going on around us, and I think it needed to be said.
What was the question again?
What things did you guys do differently when you went in the studio this time that made the album so it didn't sound like just a 70s Sabbath album?
Well, we wanted to make sure we didn't want to do another Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, because we'd done that. We wanted to do something, make a more of a 9/2 sound and capture more of a live feel with the album. And we spoke first about what direction we were going to do. We make sure we're all in the same direction as far as making a heavy album. And we just went on and done it. And the idea of doing it, sort of trying to capture the tracks in so many takes, so we retain a sort of a live feel.
Right.
And we did between 1 and 3 takes. We got.
So how long did it take to do the whole album?
Well, recording-wise, it was 6 weeks, but over a period of 18 months, I suppose, on it beforehand. By the time we sorted everything out and got everything together.
Does this kind of have like a statement that you're trying to make?
Well, truthfully, the song had more of a statement than the video. The video was just real quick and again, rather modern looking. I think the whole point of it was, Geezer said it best, that Black Sabbath has been hammered at by TV evangelists and the like for a lot of years. This was our way to get back at them and say, here, back to you again.
Well, TV Crimes was originally called Nursery Crimes. Nursery Crimes, I believe, was a title of someone's album at one point. I don't know whose it was, but it was someone's album title. And it seemed clever at the time, but then realizing that it was someone else's, of course, wanted to change it. But it wore that title forever and ever and ever until I finally did write the song and called it TV Crimes. It was always referred to as Nursery Crimes. In fact, it was so ingrained in there that when it came time to sing the song, I inadvertently said Nursery Crimes instead of TV Crimes. I've since gotten that out of my system. I think Vinny was probably more surprised than anyone about the song, because he had left after laying the basic track down. He left about 6 weeks before we'd really finished doing guitars and the rest of the vocals. So I'm sure Vinny was as interested and as shocked as hearing the song, what it turned out to be, from its original Nursery Crimes situation.
When Ronnie came home and brought me the tape, and I put it on and listened to the finished product, it blew me away, you know. It's got so much energy, and it's just real frantic. So it came out great.
I think that was about the last song where I put the bass down to. We had the guitar part and we had the drum part, and I just couldn't think of what bass to come up with. And then the day before Ronnie put the vocals down, I just went in and just whizzed away on the bass, and it worked. And Ronnie went in the next day and finished it off with the vocals and lyrics and stuff.
Computer God and Master of Insanity were two tracks that Geezer had been working on with his short-lived solo band.
There's a song on there called Master of Insanity. That was a song that Geezer's band did. He had a band at the time, too. And Jim, I can't think of his last name, kind of wrote the song. He was in Geezer's band. And we played it the way we played it. And that was one of the first times I think Ronnie had sang somebody else's lyrics, other than his own or Geezer's. So, that was interesting. So that's a song called Master of Insanity. It was kind of a weird intro, like. Something like that. I can't. It's in an odd time, too. I should have practiced it.
I like the song very much. I think Computer God, I mean, it's such a different song from what it used to be called. It wasn't as hectic as it is now. It's very forceful now. It's very aggressive, and it wasn't aggressive before. And that again was a reason why we needed a lot of time to listen to what we had done and then rethink it. Say, oh no, it's not quite right. Let's change it. So it was changed completely. I mean, totally, lyrically, melodically, from what it was in its inception. Some of the lines in the song say it all. The computer says, man's a mistake, so we'll fix it. And let's hope that we're not around when they want to fix us. But no, I think the song it says exactly what it has to say. It's modern, and it speaks of things to come, if not things that are already.
One of the most enduring songs from the album is I, which comes from a riff that Tony Iommi had back in 1989.
We have been asked to do the song I from Dehumanizer for so many years, just on and on and on. All right. And we did, and it was unbelievable. I mean, you can see people crying in the front row, who are the real adamant fans, of course. Oh, they're doing I. So, there are things that we should touch upon on that particular album, and only because I have seen that they are important to people. That's who we're playing for. Right. We're playing for people. That's why we can do this, is because they're, in a way, demanding that we do this.
Next song, that was just came out fantastic. That was Ronnie's one of Ronnie's favorite songs to play live. It was It was really heavy, and Tony really dug it as well. He's a vegan, so I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
Time Machine is another enduring track, as a rough version was included in the film Wayne's World. It was released on the film's soundtrack as well.
So I ran the tape machine. We had a cassette tape machine, 4-track, and we did Time Machine, and we had the first 2 verses, and it was like that tempo. And then we only had 2 verses. We played them and 1 chorus in between. And then we didn't know where to go. So Tony stopped playing. And on the tape, Geezer and I, this bass run that Geezer was playing. It was cool. And I was playing. And then we stopped. Go, well, we don't know where we're going from that. So that night, I wound up listening to the tape. That's what we always did. We had dinner. And Tony and Geezer went home. Ronnie and I were hanging around the house, and I listened to the tape, and that sounds really cool, going bass and drums with that groove, bringing it into a guitar solo. So I played it for everybody the next day, and that's what we did. And that's the guitar solo in there. That was a mistake. That was not a mistake, but it wasn't planned for. It just happened.
One song that many fans consider the most classic Black Sabbath sounding from the album is the amply titled After All.
The next song I got written down is a song called After All. It's a really slow, the first lyrics in the song are, what do you say to the dead? You know, it was just a really slow, heavy Sabbath song. And I kind of suggested it in the kitchen while having coffee, like we should do a song like Black Sabbath. And long and behold, we started messing around with it, and it's just like, that's the tempo. Really, really slow. It speeds up a little bit because back then we didn't use clicks.
Producer Reinhold Mack, who had previously worked with Queen and ELO, was chosen to spearhead the project.
On this album, this is really good. We managed to get him out finally after him. He's had stuff tucked away for years. He just sticks it on his cassette and shoves it in the cupboard somewhere.
Plus, in the studio, having Mac producing us, we can all concentrate on our own things rather than having to think what everybody else sounds like and everything. So it's really good, you know. I haven't really got any particular favourite track. And a lot of that, it means it's like the one you're on always sounds great at the time, and then like you'll finish that, and then you'll start on another one. Oh yeah, well, this is good as well. So I think that it's shaped up to be like one of those albums you can't really pick one track. They're all like equally. They've all got their equal points about them.
Recording the album would take place at the Rockfield Studios in Wales. However, it wouldn't take long before old animosities flared back up within the band.
Was there a point in that recording that Dio left and you came back in? Because I heard something about that as well.
Yeah, actually, that happened really quick, or anything. So, but within weeks, it was about, I don't know, it was 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe, something like that. I got a call from Tony Iommi saying, this isn't going very well. That was Dio. I said, oh, really? He says, no, can you come back? And I went, no, I can't come back. I've already started doing like my solo stuff and that. I moved on.
There was a 2-week-long vacation break scheduled. Ronnie and Vinny were on said vacation, while Tony and Geezer snuck Tony Martin in.
A few months went by and he called me again and said, "You sure you can't come back? It's really not working." So they invited me to go to the studio when they were recording the stuff. So I went down there and I did try to get some melodies and stuff on it, but they were short of time as usual. And I said, "Look, if I'm going to do this, I need to rewrite like this whole thing. I need to take it away and sit with it, work it out." And he said, "We don't have the time for that." So okay, well, I'm going to have to leave it with you. And probably the best thing to do is just, continue with Dio, and then we'll talk afterwards.
What did you record any demos during that Dehumanizer return?
Yeah, I did try. I just couldn't get anything that was going to sound better than what they'd done. So, and I have to make it sound like, as I said earlier, I have to make it sound like Tony Martin. There's no point in asking me to do it if you don't want me to sound like me. So at that point, I was kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to just keep, copying people's stuff. So
right.
I said, look, I did try, and I did put some demos down, but I doubt very much. In fact, I'm 99% certain there's nothing left of what I've got. A couple of brief cassette copies of something I tried, but it's really horrible quality, just a cassette thing. It just reminds me of the day, but yeah, I did try. I did give it a go, but I don't think I could better really what they'd done, so we sort of moved on, really.
Ronnie and Vinny came back to work on the album as scheduled, having no idea of the events that unfolded. The rest of the recording process went without incident.
One time, Tony Iommi got a new Range Rover. We were in Wales recording.
Oh.
So at one of the farms,
Rockfield. Yeah, I
Rockfield. So we would go there, and Ronnie and I obviously were living there, and Tony and Geezer were there most of the days of the week, but not on the weekend. And then Tony had a new Range Rover, so he pulled up, and he comes in the studio and tells us, "I got a new car, man. It's really cool, Oh, let's go see it." So we all go out and see it. Oh, beautiful tone. Nice. Look at that. Beautiful color and nice. So we go back in the studio, and as we walk back in, Tony and Geezer go first. Ronnie goes, "I'm last." And I see a can of oil on the shelf. I go, "Hey, Ron, let's get the oil and pour it under his car and tell him it's leaking." And Ronnie goes, yeah. So he's like a little kid, I turned him into a little kid. I said, "But you have to tell him it's leaking, because if I do, he knows something's up. Because This is what we did all these years." So they all go in. I get oil, pour some under the car, and then we wait a little bit. Ronnie pretends to go out of the studio, go outside for a minute. Then he comes back in and goes, "Hey, Tone, there's it's oil under your car." And Tony gets all concerned, and we all go look at it. And I knew about cars too back then. I was taking classes to learn how to fix cars. I like doing this stuff.
Wow.
So I go underneath, and I told him, "Wow, it looks like it's leaking from the seal. The oil pan, it could be. It's hard to tell, but it is definitely oil dripping." And so we're laughing, we're cracking up because it's false. And then we didn't know, but Tony called the Royal Auto Club to come all the way out to the farm and check the car out, and cost him, I think it cost him a couple $100. And then we had to tell him, he's going, "You bastard." Yeah. So we're all laughing. Next day, my room was destroyed.
Oh, no.
I go in my room. Everything's turned upside down, and they blew pyro up in there, and Tony arranged for a good get back,
We finally finished it all up, and we didn't know what to call it, so I made a list of about 20 different names, and we wanted, rather than pick one song to have the title of the album, we wanted one title to sum the whole album up, and I came up with Dehumanizer, and everybody else liked that.
In June of 1992, Dehumanizer would see a worldwide release, with IRS Records and Warner Reprise splitting distribution. All hope was on the album to recapture the success of Heaven and Hell or Mob Rules. However, it would fail in that regard, reaching a disappointing number 44 in the US and number 28 in the UK. Heaven and Hell reached number 28 in the US and number 9 in the UK, for example. Dehumanizer was released just a short time after Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears album, so the two were seen as direct competition. No More Tears was a mega success, reaching number 7 in the US and 17 in the UK. Fan reaction was overall positive, responding well to the more modern sound and lyrics. Critics, on the other hand, were less than complimentary.
I feel Dehumanizer was terrible. Dreadful album, really misguided, didn't have much of the elements that made Heaven and Hell, and to a slightly lesser extent Mob Rules, so popular and so successful and so good. It seemed a bit of a mishmash. It seemed that they didn't quite know how to work together anymore. It was produced by a guy called Mac in Germany, much more known for more of an electronic approach, and I don't think it worked whatsoever. I think it's a very poor album and really doesn't stack up in terms of respect for what they had done before.
Whether intentional or not, the cover for the album and the overall theme coincides with Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which was a cultural phenomenon at the time, as were other dystopian artificial intelligence and cyborg-themed films. Warner Brothers would invest a lot of time and effort in promoting the album, including magazine coverage from around the world. Unlike Heaven and Hell or Mob Rules, Dehumanizer would get a conceptual music video.
There was a music video, I believe the first production-type music video that Black Sabbath made with Ronnie James Dio as the singer from the Dehumanizer album for TV Crimes, and it's a video that we play on VH1 Classic quite a bit. What are your recollections of making that music video? Do you have any thoughts?
Being scared to death because it was right after the LA riots.
Yeah. Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
That's when it was shot.
It was like, that's where we had to film it.
I tell you what, the hotel was empty though.
When this started last night, it was just a few buildings, just a few scattered incidents, but that's not the case anymore. All over Southeast LA, this is the scene. You're either seeing buildings on fire, you're seeing buildings already burned, or you're seeing people looting buildings, and it seems as soon as they're done looting, that's when they set them ablaze.
Police guard the fire trucks but do very little to stop the looting. They are clearly outnumbered and seem to realize that trying to stop the stealing or make arrest would probably make matters worse.
Now, was the video filmed like, did you guys do your segment, then had somebody else do the other part?
We filmed the part that was on the TV first, and then that took one day, and then he took it away and did his thing with everybody carrying the TV.
I'm just going to keep on rolling, Ronnie. I'll keep on missing all the words, don't worry.
Ronnie, you all set, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Jay, let's stick the slate in. Let's roll cameras, please. Cameras. We rolling? All cameras rolling. Okay, all cameras rolling. Let's roll sound.
Bill.
Spinning. Here come the irritating tones.
Apresenta Black Sabbath ao vivo no Brasil, com sua formação clássica: Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Vinnie Appice e Ronnie James Dio. Dias 23 e 24 no Olímpia, 27 no Ibirapuera, 29 e 30 no Canecão e dia 1º no Gigantinho. Black Sabbath ao vivo, realização Mercury.
A world tour was scheduled to support the album, giving the band more tour dates than any other album in nearly 10 years.
It'd be good to get back as this band again on the road, because I think it's, everybody needs this band out there.
Well, I think the songs that we'll be doing in a live situation will, of course, have to reflect the total history of this band, from its inception with Paranoid, Iron Man, Black Sabbath, NIB, Sweetly Fit. We may not do all of those, but those are songs that are a basic part of the early makeup of the band. And from there, of course, we'll be able to touch upon the couple albums that we had done before together, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. Of course, we'll probably do both of those tracks, and a few others, especially from Heaven and Hell, which enjoyed such good success, especially even up to this point. And of course, we have a wealth of material to choose from on this album, which I think we'll probably be looking forward to a lot more. After all, we have battered all those other songs I've mentioned to death for years and years and years. It'll be nice to not only have worked at these songs, but to be able to present them and make them work to the best way. After all, recording is a nice process, and it gets you what it gets you at the end of the day. But if you're a band who has played the way all of us have before, the joy is in going out and making them better on the stage, or just getting the feel and the reaction from it all.
So I think reforming with Ronnie James Dio and with Vinny Appice was a good move commercially, and it certainly gave the band a bit more credibility to play in the larger venues and be out there performing both tracks from that album, from the Dehumanizer album, but also some of the great songs from Heaven and Hell, like Children of the Sea, Heaven and Hell itself, and tracks like Die Young.
This is the first time for a lot of people who are young to be seeing this lineup, and to be honest, it's something a lot of us never dreamed would happen. How's it been playing live together on the road after 10 years?
It's really good, because we started off in Brazil, and the first gig we came off stage and we just couldn't believe it, how well it went. We just didn't feel like we'd been away for 10 years. It was just like from the first gig on, it felt the natural thing to do, and it's just been getting better since then.
So what's the near future for Sabbath going to be like?
We're just going to get this tour finished, and then we go to Europe, and then hopefully back to America in October. And then just assess it all, finish the tour and carry on, decide from there.
You'll be back in the States in the fall?
Yeah, October, I think.
Well, hope to, the usual, we'll hope to see you out there on the road there, and hope you enjoy the album. Play it loud.
It's going to be a wonderful year for us to be able just to play again under the confines of these people in this band who are just so phenomenally good. It certainly made my life very easy as a singer.
Yeah, we look forward to getting out and playing. I think it's been a long time since we've actually been able to go out and sort of feel, you know, sure of what we've got. And I think we're pretty sure now of what we've got. I know the last few years I've gone out and it's been a bit like this because we've never had a firm footing. I think now we've got the old lineup back, it feels right, you know. And I think it'll be good for the fans out there as well to see that band back together, and, you know, hopefully we can give you all what you want.
All the positive attitudes and enthusiasm would be short-lived, as little problems within the band would be magnified by the grueling schedule.
So we started to write, and we wrote the songs for Dehumanizer. But it wasn't the most happy situation I've ever been in. Once again, it was that there was something wrong. There was just not this openness. It just wasn't there. Just the total acceptance that we had in Heaven and Hell, the fact that here we were creating again and should have been so happy to do it, it spilled over into the tour that we did as well.
Tony would express in his autobiography that the band were still playing smaller venues, so they didn't have separate dressing rooms. And since they were traveling on a bus, the guys never had any time away from each other, and that Ronnie and Geezer still liked to hit the bar, which led to them arguing a few times. But then Ronnie came face to face with an unexpected guest.
Tony Iommi had invited me backstage to one of the gigs of the Dehumanizer tour, and Ronnie wasn't happy at all that I was there. He was just, what the fuck is he doing here? So I just momentarily managed to get hold of his attention as he walked by. Ronnie! So he walked over and he just stared at me like this. And I said, Ronnie, look, I love what you're doing, man. This whole singer shit, I'm not interested, but I just wanted to tell you that you're a hard act to follow. And he said, good, and walked off. That was it.
Wow.
That was it. So, you know, I've very briefly spoken to Ronnie, but he was unhappy that I was there. He wasn't pleased that Tony Iommi had invited me. But
Sabbath has hit the 90s, and it's forward from here.
Well, it's a great opportunity for us to go forward. Whether we do or not depends on us. Of course, I mean, let's face it, what it depends on is the people who like this album and who buy it and who want to support us. But I think we expected that it was going to be a good album because we insisted upon making a good one, or else we wouldn't have gotten back together again. So that kind of took care of itself. But it's up to us to make the next album, to make an even better album than that. It's up to us to remain together as people, to remain together as a band. If we can do that, you know, then the landmarkness of this album will be important. If we don't, then it'll go down in history as, you know, boy, that was a great album. Too bad they didn't stay together.
Meanwhile, Ozzy has set up a reunion with his original band Black Sabbath, which he left in 1979. Osbourne has invited his old bandmates to join him on stage in Los Angeles next month for the last shows of what he's calling his final tour. Sabbath guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Vinny Appice have agreed to join Ozzy November 14th and 15th at the Pacific Coast Amphitheater. Original Black Sabbath drummer Bill Ward, who left the band in 1981, will also be there, but current Black Sabbath vocalist Ronnie James Dio says he will not take part in the reunion.
I felt Black Sabbath was more important to be by itself, on its own, to recreate its own image again, than to have to be in the shadow of someone else. And that person just happened to be Ozzy. It could have been Judas Priest. Maybe Rob would have been singing with him, I don't know, but that wasn't a problem for me.
That show was never even asked, like, do you guys think we should do this show? Like, presented to Ronnie, like, you want to do this show? What do you think? Instead, it was just decided among themselves that we're doing the show. So, you know, it doesn't make Ronnie feel too well, you know, and then it's just, like you said, lack of communication.
Well, what happened on that is we were due to do the custom-mated dates with Ozzy, and which would have been good for him too, you know. And he wouldn't do that. He refused flatly to do that. So we decided we should do it. It was a good date for us to do. And after that, we didn't actually break up. We just all went our own ways, you know.
But, you know, everything got real political. And that at the end of the day was, you know, more the reason why it ended than anything else. You know, it was political, what I told you about in the beginning with doing the Ozzy shows. And at the end, no one wanted to talk about it. There was no communication. Again, no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what lies Tony Iommi or Geezer Butler have made up for themselves now, we never talked about this. We were on a bus just like this. They stayed in the back, and I stayed in the front. Sorry, I didn't want to do that, but that's the way they chose to do it. So, you know, next time, if you get a chance to talk to them, don't let them bullshit you. Don't let them say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Ask them the real questions. Did you really talk about that? Well, the answer is no. And then play them that next time. So I can talk to you guys. You never talked about it, did you? And you blew the best band there ever could have been on the face of the earth, you stupid assholes.
The lack of communication was a problem that Tony Martin would echo as well.
A lot of the time you was reading between the lines to try and get an idea of what was happening, you know, because direct questions didn't really work. And you'd sort of go, I used to say to myself, I don't understand that the blokes only stood like, 10 feet away from me. And they won't speak. So, just speak to my manager about it. Okay. So you go up to your manager, across to their manager, down and back up again. It's just, it was a nightmare. So
Tony Martin was actually approached about performing these shows. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time to get him a work visa.
For this last stop on the tour, Ozzy had a very special opening act, Black Sabbath, the band he used to front. However, for these dates, the frontman role was assumed by Rob Halford.
We weren't sure whether we were going to be able to do this show, and then when Rob put up to do it and we rehearsed, we knew straight away, as soon as we got together, it was just bloody great.
Dehumanizer would go on to sell over 1 million units. Black Sabbath would reunite with Tony Martin, while Ronnie would reform Dio. In 2007, these songs would be brought back to life as the guys reunited under the name Heaven and Hell, setting the path for the album to get re-releases in box sets and deluxe editions. The legacy of the album is one that continues to grow, as newer fans discover the album, while older fans give the album its due credit.